Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Cold Hard Sports Talk with your hosts, Matty B and Woodsy.
Alrighty, boys, time for our interview for today. And this came to us from our previous guest, Emerson Hrenik. He suggested this guy as our guest for today. Kenora, Ontario's favorite son, Mitch Chagnon, is here. We'll get into where he played all over Canada in junior and university. Mitch, how's it going, man?
Pretty good, boys. How are you guys doing?
We're doing wonderful. We're happy to have you on here. Kenora's favorite son, mainly because I don't think I know anybody else out of Kenora. So that's
honestly, I didn't know Kenora.
Mike Richards. Okay, there we go. Richards is from Kenora.
He might have something to say about that one.
Okay, so you're number two then.
We'll call it a close
second.
Number two. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, sounds good. Well, getting right into it, Kenora played your AAA out in Kenora. Just talk to us about what hockey was like out in that part of Ontario and just what it was like kind of growing up playing in that area.
So in Kenora, we only got AA up until midget. So town's only got like 15,000 people. So AA kind of all the way up was 25 to 40 kids maybe at a camp every year. And the teams were pretty much the same from when I was like 9 until AAA at 15. And then once we got to AAA, we could take from Dryden, Fort Francis, Red Lake, and a couple of the other areas. And then we actually played in Manitoba in the Manitoba League. And I played 3 seasons there, and they were all pretty long, hard years, not a lot of wins.
And like I've seen, it must be tough. You're traveling like all the way into Manitoba for that. Like the travel's hard, hey?
Yeah, our closest game was Steinbach, which Steinbach used to have the AAA team, and Beaujeu had the junior team, and they since switched. So our closest game was like an hour 45, and our longest was 12 hours. We had to go to Thompson, which is literally in the middle of buttfuck nowhere. You go 2 hours to Winnipeg, and from there it's like 10 hours straight north.
I don't know if any two teams in Alberta for any level of AAA could match up and have a 12-hour drive.
No, and like somehow we always got boned on the schedule, and we had to go there in like January 12th every year, the coldest time of the fucking season.
Snowstorm weather.
Yeah, we actually, the one year we would leave here at like midnight, maybe at like 9 p.m. I guess, and then we would drive through the night, sleep, get to the rinks, so probably 9 in the morning, have a skate, and then go back to the hotel. So on our way there, we were about half an hour outside of the town here, and there was an accident, so the road was closed for probably 2 hours. We start to take off around midnight. Half of the guys are banged up on the bus. We went to a party beforehand, like not a good situation. So we start to leave, and the bus is broken down on the side of the road at midnight. So the coach had to call them. We had to push the games back a couple of days. It was an absolute nightmare. I was kind of just hoping that the whole trip kind of fucking would have got completely shut down, but we had to go and probably lost them both.
Now, Matt, does that remind you of the Owen Ozar story we heard?
Yes, yeah, it does.
We had one story of
Wenatchee.
A junior A in the BCHL, a team had their bus break down after a game, no hotels for them to stay in. So they ended up calling another coach who had real estate connections, and they all stayed in a empty apartment that he was trying to sell for the night.
All of them in one apartment?
Yeah.
I hope the coach bought a couple cases of beer for the boys.
We didn't hear if that was the case or not. So
I would hope so. That'd be a couple weird events, I think. I mean, you usually have to share a bed up until junior, and then after that you kind of get your own. But there it sounds like a couple of guys might have been on a couch or something together.
Yeah, they were nice and cozy there, we heard.
Yeah, that's so he was in Wenatchee, you said?
I think they went from Wenatchee trying to go back to Trail.
Yeah, so when I was in the North American League, Wenatchee, they were in our conference or whatever, and they were an absolute powerhouse. I didn't have to play them. That was one of my many cups of coffee along the way, but I heard they went to the BCHL shortly after that.
Well, let's get into your junior career. You started in Dryden, kind of close to home, as a bit of a call up. Just tell us about playing in Dryden, your first kind of taste of junior hockey.
Yeah, so Dryden, like my dad was a goalie coach there when I was in like Pee Wee, so I used to go up there and watch. And when I got called up to play, it was kind of like I knew the league wasn't the best, but it was still kind of a cool feeling, right? To be able to go up and play with the big boys and stuff. And first shift, I'm all fired up, buried a guy from behind, like blatantly should have been kicked out. The ref was actually from here. And he was like right there. And I looked at him like, Shreds, don't do this to me. Like, you cannot kick me out. My dad's there. He's going to beat the piss out of me if I get kicked out of the game. And he kind of looks at me and he goes, Shags, you should have been gone for that one, but I'm giving you a free pass. I'm like, thank God.
No penalty.
So no penalty at all.
Like, no, it doesn't even give you a 2 on it.
No, I think because he knew that I was just probably all jazzed up, right, to be fucking playing junior and stuff, that he kind of gave me the free pass. And then I actually ended up scoring that game too. And I'm like, fucking, this is easy. I could play junior. And then I realized quickly, I'm like, maybe this isn't the best league. If I'm like, I walked in, they put me on the second line and stuff. I'm like, that doesn't usually happen with a call-out player.
Oh,
so
man.
Then,
Game 1, I got 26 minutes of ice time. What's going on here?
I couldn't believe it. And then at the end of the game, they wanted me to sign there. And I'm like, no, because so if I wanted to play junior as a 17-year-old, because the province is so, I think there's like 5 leagues or something.
Yep.
They had a rule in place. If you wanted to play junior, you had to stay in your region, I guess. So I would have had to play in the SI. And if I signed there, then you're kind of screwed, right? You kind of have to go off of, like, my cousin actually went to Thunder Bay, and the coach told him if he signed there as a 17, he would trade him at 18. He played there until he was 20. So that was kind of in the back of my mind. And then I think I played one more game throughout the year and then a playoff game, which kind of got me ready a little bit for what was to come.
And you headed out to the Maritimes after that. Why did you want to go out there? Obviously, it's nice country out there.
It's beautiful out there, man. So my brother was out there for 3 years. Fortunately, we didn't have to play each other because he's probably 6'1". He played at like 215. And if I played against him, he would have just bullied me. Like he probably tried to most of our freaking childhood. But so I actually went out there and watched him in playoffs twice. And the team he played was in Miramichi, and that's where I signed. And they were like rivals. Like we went in there and like there was signs around the rink saying Chagnon's a pussy. They had a rubber chicken with his name on it. They were hanging it over the glass. Like, this town was insane, man. It was like the Flin Flon of the Maritimes. So that's where I went to sign.
Oh, man. So they hated your brother, but loved you?
I wouldn't say loved.
Okay.
But I got there and I was only there for a couple months or whatever, but I couldn't believe it. Like, the town was like rough around the edges a little bit. So, there was a couple of guys in town who I had heard they were probably early 20s, heard a couple of rumors that they used to show up to the bar at like 20 to 2, just trying to fight people. Sober. They would show up fucking sober just to try to I can beat the tar out of somebody. So we're at the pub. I was only 18 at the time. Our assistant coach was the bartender. And yeah, it's incredible. So bar's closing and I see these two guys walk in. I'm like, that might be them. Like, and I was like 140 pounds at the time. Like, I got no issue. Like, shouldn't even be speaking to anybody because they might take it the wrong way. And I like couldn't even fight my way out of a wet paper bag. So my roommate's girlfriend, she was just this mouthpiece, and she lost her jacket. She had her camera in it. And these two guys kind of started spouting off. And I'm like, Trish, like, let's go. Like, start the car. Let's get the hell out of here. So then her boyfriend comes in, had no idea. Like, they were spouting off for like 5 minutes, probably ever. And then Bobby comes in and they start chirping him. I'm like, oh, like, I'm ready to jump in behind the bar, like maybe bottle smash somebody if I have to. But so then a couple of our fighters, they walked in, and the one guy's like, let's go Front Street right now. There was literally probably a circle of 100 people on Main Street, Miramichi. And the Miramichi scrapper fought my team's heavyweight.
Oh man.
Dead center of the fucking intersection. Like, what is going on in this town, man? And then the cops kind of showed up, like a couple of referees, and split it up, and then away we went.
Sounds like something straight out of Letterkenny.
Yeah. Letterkenny / like slap shot.
Yeah. That's just wild.
Trade me right fucking now.
Just the classic Saturday night activity, go for some drinks and watch the fights after.
With the coach. Yeah, it was nuts.
And so I would assume getting traded to Steinbach was a little bit of a culture shock then.
Yeah, I went to Mennonite land where, well, and so my team in Miramichi, we had like, that league out there was pretty skilled, but everybody fought. Like, everybody fought. I think at the end of the season that year, my team finished with, well, I got traded in November or whatever, but the team finished with like 115 fights, I think, in 55 games.
Oh, man.
And probably lost 3 of them, which were all the fights that I was in.
That's something to hold, I guess, eh?
Yeah. So actually, I went into Woodstock, which is where my brother played. It was like the 5th game of the year or whatever. And I was kind of like, I have to try to make a mark because I knew the coach. So I was like, he could have signed me, chose not to. So my roommate got crumpled from behind. I came in there, dropped the gloves, and this guy like one punches me, folded me. Yeah, like right in the teeth, right on the button. And then I blacked out. And then I got to the room and my mouth is all banged up and my fucking teeth are kind of hanging out. Then I heard on the PA, they needed the doctor to go to the other team's dressing room. I found out after that, once I got folded, there was like kind of like a brawl afterwards. And then I got up and worked the guy.
You don't remember this?
No, until I saw the video. And I don't throw, like I said, I was like 140 pounds. I don't throw hard. So I must have caught him perfectly on the button. And apparently I broke his nose. And then I got up and did every fight celebration in the book. Like, so embarrassing. I dusted off the gloves.
On muscle memory alone.
Yeah, I dusted the gloves. I was doing the belt. Like, what are you doing, man? Get it together.
Mere moments after being knocked out yourself.
Yeah, I probably still had spaghetti legs.
Man, I can just picture, that's a scene out of a movie. Kid gets out cold dropped, bounces back, lands the shot, and then just sallies the day away.
Yeah, super embarrassing.
Oh,
wild.
Did you ever have to answer for that again?
No, I just wouldn't have. I just wouldn't have fought unless I knew I kind of had the fucking chance. But no, we had like 16 like scrappers. So if I was a little bit of a pest out there, so I would like skate in and spray the tendy, and then I'd fucking just kind of back up, and 4 guys would come flying in, and
Okay, you guys deal with it.
yeah. So when I got traded to Steinbach, Steinbach's team, that was the first year in Steinbach, and we had like 17 rookies. So the first game I come in, I spray the tendy and I look around, it's just me. I'm like, anybody gonna do this? Like, I had to start fighting my own battles there. It wasn't quite as fun.
Wake up call.
Absolutely. That was a big wake up call.
The offense started to come in your second year in Steinbach, though. So just how much was that of, a success? Was it just opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, Miramichi, I wasn't playing a ton. They wanted me to scrap and stuff, and like I wasn't tough, so that wasn't really too much of a fit for me. So then when I got traded to Steinbach, I started to play more, obviously, and then I started to put up some points at the back half of that year, and then I broke my hand, so I missed the last bit of the season. And then the next year, coach put me and a couple of guys together. Actually, the one guy I played with in Dryden a bit, and then another guy from Winnipeg, and we just, I think the first game we probably combined for 9 points or something, and I was like, we might be onto something here. And then we stayed together most of the year until the one guy got traded at the deadline. But our team wasn't very good, right? So we played probably 25 minutes a night. Just about every power play, we were out there for like a minute and a half. Didn't have to kill penalties, which was perfect for me. So yeah, just because the team wasn't the best, I played a ton, right? So that'll obviously help a guy put up some points.
And like Steinbach, I was in Steinbach in 2018 for the Anavet Cup. I saw kind of the passion that Steinbach fans have for the Pistons. Was it the same back then, or has it just kind of developed over time?
It was awesome then too. Like, it could be a Wednesday night, an 8:00 start, playing against fucking Selkirk for like the 6th time in a couple weeks, and there was probably 600 fans there, and like it's packed in that barn, right? It was 600 fans. And they would, like, from right at the puck drop until the last buzzer, they didn't care. They were just huge hockey fans. But I think 2 years after I got traded, they got new ownership, and since then they started to spend a bunch of money to like start to treat their players right. They upgraded the dressing room, the players lounge and stuff. And I actually went back there 2019 for the 10-year anniversary. There was an alumni game, and like I got a tour of the room and the coach's offices and stuff, and like it looked completely different. So it was pretty nice to see them actually, because I like the coach there at the time. Like by the time I got traded, of the 17 rookies we had, there was only like 3 guys left. So everybody hated it there. But the assistant coach at the time is now the head coach and the GM.
Yep.
Great guy.
Yep.
So I'm super happy to see him doing well. He just got extended again for another contract, like 3 years or something, which is good, because he's such a beauty. He actually lived with one of the guys on the team. The first year he was the assistant coach. So my buddy was living with Russ and Shannon Dick, and that was Paul's brother. So he came back and he lived upstairs or ever. And he was very like, he never came downstairs and had beers with us or ever, but he was actually one of the more professional coaches that I had.
Yeah,
such
Paul
a beauty,
awesome.
That guy. Yeah, super good guy.
Yeah, Paul Dick is an awesome dude. Well, he's one guy we should probably try and get on the podcast.
Oh, for sure.
At one point, so
Paul, he would be awesome, man. I can even I'm going up Steinbach in July for an alumni golf tourney, so I can reach out to him if you guys want.
There you go.
Oh,
There you go.
absolutely.
We've got a
Yeah.
connection.
There's our
We've got another
in. Let's
connection.
go.
Yeah. The other coach, on the other hand, I don't think he would even cross the road to talk to me.
And you went to Dawson Creek, which for people who don't know Canadian geography, Dawson Creek is in the middle of nowhere.
It's the start of the Alaskan Highway.
Yeah. So why Dawson Creek and why the NAHL?
Just a fan of the TV show or what?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that's where I was going, actually, and I was rudely mistaken. No, I'm kidding. So,
Okay.
What a reason to sign a contract, eh?
Yeah, exactly. I was trying to get to Brooks, actually, in the AJ, and the coach and GM and Steinbach was being a bit of a dick about it. So he knew at the end of the year that I wanted to trade. I sent him a list of like 3 teams or something. And then they wanted me to go to their spring camp, which they needed approval from Steinbach. And Steinbach said no. I'm like, well, I'm not coming back. You think you would want me to go there, like try to showcase, right? To try to make a name. So they said no. So by the time they traded me, it was like the end of August. Middle of August or something. So Brooks already had their 9-20-year-olds. So he traded and got me anyways because he knew that I wanted out of Steinbach. And then they traded me to Dawson Creek.
And the travel would have been tough there too because that was the only Canadian NAHL team at the time, was it not?
Yeah. So I actually lucked out. I was only there for 10 games. I think I only played 9 of them, but so we played 4 in the showcase at the start of the year, all in Minneapolis. So we bussed to Edmonton, which was 5 hours maybe.
Yeah, something like that.
And then we flew from there to Minnie. But so the year before, they had a sleeper bus, which was actually pretty sweet. I had like 13 bunks on it and stuff. So they would bus to Edmonton for all the trips. So there you play just the teams in your division, 4 showcase games, and then there's 2 random teams where you play 2 there and 2 at home against. So I played the 4 in Minnie, and then our next 6 were at home. So I didn't have to travel much. But that year, they actually bussed down to Seattle for every single trip, and then they would fly from there, which is like 17 hours or something. Yeah. There was one point right after I got traded, they were gone for like 28 days straight.
That's so expensive.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like they went to Alaska. They played the 3 teams up there, like 9 games over like 3 weeks. And then they flew down to Fresno in California. They were there for a week. And I don't know if they trained up to Wenatchee that year or the year before. But then they went there and then they took the bus back. And guys were apparently, before I left, there was a couple guys that were talking about doing the 1 shirt challenge, 1 fucking t-shirt for 28 days. I'm like, you guys are disgusting. You guys are disgusting. You're sweating on that bus. Like, but I think somebody told me to run a normal programs like 200 to 250K, and Dawson Creek was like 800. So they only lasted the 3 seasons or 2 seasons or something because it was just too expensive.
And it's in the middle of nowhere. So that's probably part of
it. Also a reason, yeah.
Yeah. How was like Dawson Creek to be? I mean, you're only there for a bit, but what was it like as a town? Was it a good place to be?
Yes and no. I mean, the town was a little bit kind of sketchy. Like pipeliners up there. There's a ton of money. The rink was phenomenal. Like,
oh yeah,
full wraparound. There was boxes and stuff, like probably 20 boxes. The dressing room was great, but we would get like 100 fans in a rink that seats 8,000. You come out, it's like, oh, dress like a seat night again. And like, what else are you doing in Dawson Creek? Come out and watch. Like, there's nothing else going on.
Didn't they hold the Junior A Challenge there a couple of years ago, though?
Yeah, they did. Yeah. And I saw the finals and it was packed. I'm like, that would have been nice to see, but didn't really have that luxury.
Well, there was then a big change because then you went to Portage for the end of the season, and Portage is kind of a good team, good program.
Yeah. So
So, bit
when
of a
I got
change.
traded, yeah, it was great. When I got traded there, that was like the, I guess, third time I was traded in like the span of 3 months. And I'm like, you know what? I'm fucking done. Like I was completely ready just to quit. The coach called me and he used to chirp the fuck out of me every time we played him. He's like, "Hey, Chagnon, you're never going to be a fucking Terrier. I'd never I'm like, what? And now you're calling me to come play for you? I'm like, little bit of mixed emotions. So a couple of guys who I knew called me and I was like, no, boys, I'm not coming. And then I talked to my dad and he's like, do whatever you want to do. He's like, but I checked. They won, like, I think it was 6 straight at the time. He's like, you've always, like, since AAA, all my teams, they were shitty. And he's like, this might actually kind of be a time where you can possibly have some wins, right? So I decided to go and loved it there. But that team was so deep. Like, I wasn't skilled enough to play top 6, and I haven't blocked a shot my entire life, so I couldn't play bottom 6. So I was actually only there for a month. And in that time, like, the coach, he kind of reminds me of like kind of like a John Tortorella, like in your face. Oh, yeah. And I don't do well with that. It was like one of our first games, and we were down at the start of the third period. And there was like 30 seconds into the period. And I was like, hey, Blake, who's up? And he snaps on me. He's like, hey, Shags, if I fucking want to line out there, I'll fucking tell them. I'm like, okay, a simple year line's not up would have sufficed, but I get it. And then he goes, and if I decide to put you out there, would you do something for a fucking change?
I love it. I love
like,
it.
Dude, I've played 5 periods here. Like, what are you doing?
That was a bit of a wake-up call, eh?
Yeah. And then I got traded to Thunder Bay, and I was like, I can't go there. And then my rights got traded to Humboldt.
Oh, okay.
And they were hosting the RBC that year.
Okay.
So I'm like, I'm not fucking going. Like, that was actually when I bought a bunch of goalie gear and started to play net. But I'm like, I'm not going. Like, so I got some messages from people. They said, like, what are you doing, man? You have to go. Like, you could possibly play in a national championship. So I'm like, you know what? I'll go. So I get there, supposed to meet up with the coach at the rink the night that I was there. He calls me. He's like, I'm at my son's, like, music show or whatever. So he sent the billet coordinator. I'm like, not off to the best fucking start. Next day I show up. Was a game day on the road. I walk in and, like, I see, like, all these junior ace studs. I'm like, I don't think I'm going to crack this lineup. So I went and watched the game. We played like Melford or something. They kicked the shit out of them. I'm like, yeah, this team's pretty good. Get to the room the next day. The coach still hadn't spoke to me. I'm like, also,
like, not a word.
Not a word, just a hi. Like, don't you want to, like, bring me in, like, have a meeting or something, right? That's usually how it went on the 9 other times that I got traded. And I walk in and I'm sitting on a wooden chair in the middle of the dressing room as a 20-year-old. I'm like, yeah, that's really not a good sign. So I practiced.
Like,
we had 5 lines of forwards.
Oh, man.
And you guessed it, I was on the 5th line. So I got back to the billets that night and I was like, there was still like 13, 20-year-olds. And I'm like, I'm not cracking this lineup. So I called my dad and he's like, you know what? You at least went. You tried it out. You should probably come home now. And I was like, good. I'm already packed. I didn't even unpack the suitcase. Like, I'm coming home 6 a.m.
Did you think just kind of hockey was just kind of going to be done at that point?
Yeah, I did. I didn't really care. Like, I was kind of checked out prior to, and that was like a 10-hour drive. So the whole way there, I'm like, what are you doing? So then actually I wrapped up the year playing junior B in Winnipeg with a buddy. But once that was wrapped up, I was like, it's done. I can play beer league in nets, and like it just doesn't matter, right? I can just kind of have some fun with it, and then yeah, things
What
kind of changed.
what
Do you
like
feel
why did you
like-
want to play goalie though? What made
I
you
was
want to
gonna
go to
ask,
goalie?
like,
Yeah.
was it like at some point in the stress of getting traded 9 times, did the screw pop loose and you decided to like, okay, I can play goalie now. I've lost enough marbles to officially go between the pipes.
You can ask a lot of people. I think the screw was always a little bit loose. My dad was a Tandy, actually.
You were saying, yeah, the goalie
Yeah.
coach.
Yeah, so he used to run camps and stuff here, and I just like I liked the equipment more. Like every NHL game, I'd be customizing goalie pads and stuff. Like
Yep.
I just loved it. So when he actually played in the Manitoba League as well, he played for Winkler. And when he was a 20-year-old, there was a kid who stuck around. He's a 17-year-old. He was the third string Tendy for a bit. He got sent back to high school. My dad won goalie of the year. That 17-year-old kid, Ed Belfour.
Oh. Okay.
So that's kind of my dad's claim to fame. He's like, yeah, that Hall of Famer. Yeah, he backed me up. So I just every time we would play on the pond and stuff, I was always in net. So this was now kind of the chance to have a little like, I actually just bought all brand new custom pads last spring, a custom painted goalie mask. Like, I love it.
And so you took like a little bit of a year off before going to Mount Royal in Calgary.
Yeah.
Why were you going to school at Mount Royal? What was kind of the thing to go to Calgary at first?
Ex-girlfriend was in Calgary.
Okay, fair.
At Mount Royal. So I went there and I played in net in rec league at the university.
Intramurals. Yep.
Yeah, intramurals. And then I happened to be in a class with Matt Brown, who was on the university team at the time, and he got me a tryout for the next year as a player.
Okay.
'Cause
So yeah, we've heard this story. We've heard kind of parts of it. Now we want to hear it from you. The walk-on story of you trying out as a player
and becoming a goalie. They had to hide me somewhere.
A true Rudy-esque story for our generation.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So it was probably like Christmas time of the year that I was playing in rec league, and I was like, you know what? Like, I miss fucking playing hockey. Like, this is not hockey. Like, I'm shit-faced every time I play because I'm scared of the puck. Like, this is not what it should be. So I met Brownie, and there was a skate at the end of the year, and I went out to it. And then he told me he would try to land me a tryout all summer long. I was talking to him and stuff, but the tryout stuff, like after the first couple months, it was not really spoken about. So I'm like, well, like, it's probably not happening. And then he called me like beginning of August. He's like, hey, I got you a tryout. And I was like, man, I've been drinking excessively all summer. Like, I haven't.
Not in shape.
I look okay on the beach. You put me on a rink and I'm going to get laughed at. So he's like, man, just fucking do it. So I'm like, okay. So I ended up sticking around for probably 3 weeks. Had to do all the fitness testing. Wasn't a good look. Got in an exhibition game against UFC. And I thought I played well, but to make it as a walk-on, you have to be like a standout, right? I mean, you're coming into it. We already had there was probably 15 forwards at the time. So like, I would have essentially had to knock a guy out who had already been fucking like signed, I guess, right? So he sends me a text at the end of at that night of the exhibition game. He's like, I want you to come to the rink tomorrow for 10 a.m. I'm like, yep. If I could be traded in university, that's what that text is.
Yeah.
Because
We're
I've
sending
got
you up to U of A.
Yeah, to Phil Waters. So we went. There was a party on Res actually that night, so I shot him a text back after a couple drinks, and I was like, you know what? If you're cutting me, just fucking cut me now. Like, I don't want to come in at 10 in the morning. So he's like, no. So I went into the meeting, and I came walking in there with an empty bag, like ready to pack it, because I knew exactly what was happening, right? So he cut me or whatever, which I was kind of expecting, but it was still a pretty cool experience to be able, like, it was like just about a month, I think, which was sweet to be a part of that. Because I mean, the university in hockey is, or in Canada is actually very good. We just don't really get like
hockey.
And no fans come watch. So to even be able to play in that one game was so cool. So then the guys were telling me, we went to a concert that night. And they said at the meeting, they were talking because Dusty Nickel tore his knee. He was the third string tendy, and they said somebody spoke up and said that I had some goalie gear and that the coach should call me. So this was on a Friday night. We're all fucking banged up, whatever. So I'm like, there's no chance. So Monday morning, I was in between classes, and the coach fucking calls me. And I'm looking at my phone, and it's vibrating. I'm like, there's no way. Like, there's no way that he's making this phone call right now. So I answer it. I'm like, hey, Jean, what's up? He's like, just making a call I thought I'd never have to make. I'm like, holy shit, he's doing it. Like, he's actually fucking doing this. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, I know I cut you Friday as a player, but do you want to come back and be our third string goalie? I'm like, yeah. When do you want me there? He's like, you can come whenever, pretty much. He's like, come once a week, twice a week, whatever. I was like, John, I will be there every single day. I will put that gear on. I don't care if I take a shot or just be sliding and working on my butterfly and shit. So I called my dad, and he's like, you're what? I'm like, I'm the goalie. He's like, Mitch, you're scared of the puck. I'm like, I know, Dad, but he doesn't know that. Like, I'm on the team. I got the tracksuit.
Now, I gotta say, that's like the beer league dream. That one day, like, you get the call from a coach. It's like, hey, so I heard you're doing pretty good in beer league. Want to come play for me?
That was essentially what it was. I won. I actually won intramurals the one semester, so maybe he caught some wind of that. I don't know.
Yeah, intramural champion over here.
Goalie of the year for intramurals.
Yeah, you let in about 9 goals a game, but you had a good team. Do you want to come play for us?
Let 9 goals a game, but the league average was 12, so we want you.
I was above average.
Yeah. So did you ever have to dress for a game?
No. I would usually on average take about 5 shots of practice, and then at the end I'd take slap shots and breakaways and one-timers and shit. Essentially just trying to build confidence for the shooters.
Right.
So
you were just like a human shooter almost.
Yeah, with more holes though.
That's a good one.
So the 1 week Monday practice, our tendy was going post to post, and he took a puck off the knee. So the entire week I had my own net. I'm fucking every shot, and I'm thinking, like, I might get the dress. This would be a dream come true. I was calling my dad every night, and I was like, Dad, like, I might get on the score sheet. And he's like, if you do, he's like trying to coach me through it. I'm like, Dad, if I get in the game, no coaching is going to help me. Like, I fucked. So the tendy, he ended up coming back and playing, so I never had to dress. But and then just after Christmas, actually, they got Cam Lanigan back from the East Coast League, so I kind of got cut again. He's like, if you want to come back,
guy get cut.
I know. The first cut is the deepest. So he's like, you can come back and practice still if you want, like, as a player. I'm like, yeah, sure. So coming back after the Christmas break, we would usually play UFC in a couple touch-up games. He put me in the lineup as a player. I just practiced 4 straight months in net. Hadn't put on player skates. He puts me in the lineup as a player.
For this like exhibition game?
Yes, against UFC. I had no business being out there.
Do you feel like that was kind of like, was that coach tossing you a bone, or was that coach like, okay,
I think
let's put the kid in the game and get a laugh?
I think it was like, how bad does he actually want to be on this team? And clearly I wanted to be there until I got kicked out of the game for hitting from behind.
Oh, that was a first shift again?
First shift of the second period, I think. And then somebody came in and grabbed me, and I'm thinking, well, this is probably my last shift ever. So I dropped my glove.
Oh yeah, that's not a good choice in
Yeah,
university.
can't do that in
No.
university hockey.
The best, well,
And you
the
couldn't
guy-
talk this ref out of it.
No,
You can say, come on, man.
can let me pick those back up and pretend I didn't crush that guy. So the guy who grabbed me, he was like a scrapper, I guess, a bit in the Western League. So he would have beat the fucking wheels off me. So thank God he didn't fight back.
Oh man. But the next season, you managed to get back on the team. Tell us how this all came to be again.
So we got a new coach. Bert, who I love. He called me and he's like, hey, I'm making some calls. He's like, I know there was some bad apples and stuff last year, so I'm trying to like cut some of those guys out. I'm like, fuck, am I getting cut again? Like I didn't even.
You think you're the bad apple, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I wasn't sure what to expect at that point, but I'm like, how? Like, I don't even think that I'm on the team. How am I getting cut?
At this point, just gives the fourth string goalie a ring, just letting you know you're not on the team in case you thought you were.
Hey, you don't even have a walk on. Like, don't come. So he's like, I talked to some guys and they said that we should keep you around. I'm like, okay, sweet. So he's like, judging by your stats last year, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking to myself, he's got no idea that I was in net. So I went back as a player, ended up making the team, traveled to Thunder Bay when we went, which is only like 5 hours away from here, which was pretty sweet. Because when I was growing up, they were kind of like the big ticket, right? So the fact that I got to go and play them was actually pretty sweet. And they had like 3,000 fans there, like awesome environment. Played in the home opener, scored.
In the home opener?
Graveyard shift. I got put out there. It was about 30 seconds left in a 6-2 game, scored with like 7 seconds left and sallied like I just won the cup.
Who was it against? Was it against, I guess would have been UFC probably? No.
Lethbridge.
Okay.
Leth Vegas. So a couple months went by and he never really mentioned anything about like the fact that I played in net. So one practice I scored a goal and I was coming up the wall and I was doing the old fucking pumpernickel. He skates down and he celebrates with me. He's like, not bad. And I was like, yeah, not too shabby, eh? And he goes, especially from an old goalie. And I looked at him and my eyes were just wide. And he's like, I just found out before the practice. He's like, you are so fucked. So I only played 6 games that year. One of them happened to be in the fucking Crow Child Classic too. Yeah.
Not a bad one to get into.
First one in like 10 weeks too. And it's not because I was hurt. I was a health bomb for that long.
So why did he put you in for that game?
I don't know. He must have known my whole story and he's like, yeah, let's add another chapter to the book. No, when I got back after Christmas, I was talking to the assistant coach and I was like, what do I have to do to get back in the lineup? Like, I'm losing my fucking mind. So I just, for a couple of weeks, I worked my bag off in the gym and stuff. And he must have saw that and he chucked me a bone.
How cool is that to play in the Dome, like in front of all those drunk college idiots? And
that was the coolest experience of my life, man. Like, I didn't play a ton, which I didn't care about because I'm like, just even sitting here and like watching it all and soaking it all in was wild. He also came in the room before warm-ups and he's like, the broadcasting department from the universities here, we need somebody to wear the GoPro.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So he put it on me in warm-ups. So like I saw the footage and I barely touched a puck in warm-ups. I was just like skating around, like looking at the crowd because it was so surreal, man. Like there was like 8,000 people there in warm-ups.
Oh yeah, it's wild.
It was so cool.
Even as a college student and as a broadcaster, that was one of my favorite moments I've ever been able to call.
Well, because
the Crow Child Classic.
It's like the whole event, right? They have
it's larger than life.
Yeah, they've got the light show, they've got the actual Flames announcer there. Like they really do a great job of it. And I was there as a student, I was there as a scratch, and I was there as a player. And I just kept getting closer and closer to the action until I got to touch a puck.
And you did score though, which
no, we had a 2-on-1, me and Tyler Jewett, and he tried to feather it over to me. And if I would have scored, like, I don't know what I would have done. I might have been like Ned Braden on slap shot, and I might have geared down right on the fucking ice.
Honestly, off that one, you could just call it a day, honestly.
I think I would have just completely, shut her down. Mic drop, a little bat flip.
Toss it to a fan, say, don't sell this on eBay.
Sign it.
Keep it.
Throw my fucking number on it. Call me later.
So where was the point where you were like, okay, you know what? This is the end of the road for the dream.
So the next day we played UFC again.
Yep.
And I was
hangover game,
hungover.
as they like to call it.
Yes. And I was in no spot to be trying to play at the best of times, let alone hungover. So that game, I couldn't get the puck out. I was on the half wall, and 4 times in the same shifts, I couldn't get the puck out.
I would get in your own zone, eh?
I would get rocked. Cody Curran was the D-man. I think he's still playing pro somewhere. Like, guy was a stud. He's batting pucks down. I'm like, dude, just give me a break. Like, I got to get off the ice. So I got off, and I heard Bert say to Trev, who's he was running the forwards. He goes, Shags is done. Shags is fucking done for the game. I'm like, thank God. So I didn't.
The only time you want to be done for the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm like, don't put me back out there. I was fucking completely ready to fake an injury, hurt feelings. So I didn't play in the last game against U of M, which I thought was like a bit. So if we won Friday night, we couldn't catch second, and fourth couldn't catch us. So I thought maybe he would like chuck me a bone because I had only played in 6 games, and he didn't. So I just spun around and packed my bag and left right there. So like not really the classiest of plays, but I went, like, when they played UC, I went to watch and stuff, and Bert called me in the room at the end of the fight. Like they lost in game 3, and he called me down. He's like, why don't you go in there and have a couple beers with the boys or whatever. So the next year I was sitting in rec at university there, and he comes walking by, and they were playing Nate that night in an exhibition game, and he comes walking by, and he's like, hey, Shags, can I speak to you? And I said, Bert, I know I'm not playing tonight either. And he's like, no, I'm serious.
You don't need to cut me. I'm not on the team.
Yeah. What are you gonna do? Take my track jacket back? Like, I need this. So he asked me to come back and be the like assistant equipment manager.
So what did you do as the assistant equipment manager? What was your role here now?
He told me just to like come to the rink. I could come on the days of practices if I wanted, but come before the games and stuff just to kind of help set up. So this was like, I didn't do anything that weekend, and then I started the week after. And he calls me on like the Tuesday. He's like, do you have a passport? I was like, yeah, why? He's like, Bain doesn't have a passport, and we're going to Alaska this weekend, so we need you to come to be like the head guy. I'm like, Bert, I can't even fucking sharpen skates yet. Like, he's like, no, he spoke to the 2 teams, and their guys took care of it and stuff. So I'm like, yeah, sure. So I went there, and like, I loved it. That was the best fucking season of hockey I've ever had. Like, I knew my role. I wasn't getting scratched. Like, that was my spot. So
We're
I
getting
guess
cut.
There's no way he can cut me from here. You can't
Exactly.
cut an
Yeah.
equipment manager.
I can't possibly go any further down than this. So I guess the guys, like, I was like, they came into the rink. I had all their fucking, all of their gitch lined up. All of the tape was out. All their sticks were out. And like, they were like, this never happens. And I was like, yeah, well, there's a new sheriff in town now. Like, I'm the captain now. So they talked to the coach when we got back, and I became like the head guy. So I would go before the games, and then I would be able to leave and go and get shit faced, and the other guy would stick around and wash all the laundry and stuff. So we had like a little bit of like a kind of like a tandem thing, but I got to go on the bench, I got to travel and stuff. And then one game, we're going to U of S, and they were like first in the country at that time. And yeah, because they're a powerhouse, and that rink that they played in was like dangerous to play in.
Yep.
It was so small. So we're playing at UFC, and Bert, he asked me if I still had a suit in town, and I was like, yeah. Like, why? He's like, I need you to coach next weekend.
Oh.
I was like, what? Like, no. I'm like fucking looking around for cameras. I'm like, I'm definitely getting punked here. Like, there's no way this is legit. So he said the two assistant coaches couldn't come. The equipment guy, he's from Saskatoon, so he was planning to come anyways. He's like, you just kind of have to be there. Kind of like, you don't have to do anything. Just stand on the bench. I'm like, okay.
Easy.
Yeah, I can do that. I've been doing it my whole career here. So we get to Saskatoon, and he hands me a lineup card, and I was like, why do I need this? He's like, you're running the forwards. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? We had 11 forwards and 5D. We had like a ton of injuries. So we were up one like late in the third. So I benched a couple of guys. I said, you guys are done for the night. I said, I got one shot at this. Like, you guys are sitting down. And they looked at me like, dude, you're not even good enough to play on this team. There's no way that you're telling me I'm not playing. I was like, fuck, I'm not. You're sitting down. It'll be bag skates next week if you fucking try to glare at me like that again.
Oh no. You sat like you shortened the bench.
A couple
the first time assistant coach.
Couple of my buddies sat them down. You guys are done. So we ended up winning the game. And then Bert caught me that night at about midnight. I knew a couple chicks in town who they were on the university team the year before. So they came over and had a couple drinks, and I was actually staying with one of the players. So I was like, well, he has to play in the morning. So we were going back. We were going to one of the chicks' friends was having a little bit of there was like 12 people there. So we were planning a little shindig. Yeah. So we were planning to go there, and we're waiting for the elevator. I'm standing there with these two blonde girls and like a bottle of whiskey. And who comes out of the elevator? Bert. He's on the phone, and he looks at me and just kind of shakes his head. So I came back pretty late that night, and I slept in the morning.
Oh.
So me and my roommate are like panic mode. He was a rookie on the team. So we're like full panic mode. I run downstairs. I'm still drunk. My eyes look like they're bleeding. We come to the lobby. Everybody's waiting down there. I'm like, he's going to kill me. Like, he's literally going to kill me. And it's just silent. I'm like, okay, let's go. Like, we're here. We can go now. Like, let's not talk about this. And he goes, hey, coach, I saw you walking out of the hotel last night with those 2 rockets and that bottle. I didn't think you would be showing up today. He was like super
like
chill about it.
Strangely okay with it.
Yeah, I think because we won, and he was not like, we should have got shit kicked, right? We had our like Brownie was out. One of our top D men was hurt. Like, we had nobody, and we still somehow like Fiddler was there, and he probably played 45 minutes. I was like, "You're back out there, go."
Double shift back, like the McDavid treatment, eh?
Exactly. Yeah, you're out again. And then that was about it. But then he actually called me when I was back at home. He's like, "Are you taking any classes?" I was like, "No, why?" He's like, "We're going to Vancouver this weekend, and we're super short bodies." He wanted to fly me out to Vancouver to play. Yeah, I was like, "No,
I remember hearing about that when I was there."
So
I remember that time.
He had like a tryout, and I think they took 3 players.
Yep.
From like they played, I think 2 played in the Western League, so it's not like they were bad or anything, but yeah, it was quite the run that I had there for sure.
Like, this is the most unique like path like that anybody has ever seen, really, when you think
what
about
a career. What a
Every
career.
time that I like, stuff just kept happening and getting weirder and weirder and weirder, and I'm like, when does it end? Like,
you needed cameras following you around. We need like a documentary on you.
Honestly, your career kind of reads like a sitcom where they had to write a story for every episode, so they keep throwing these curveballs out.
And it keeps getting weirder and weirder.
Yeah.
It was quite the run, but that time at school was like the best time of my life, man. I met so like, I'm still in touch with a ton of guys out there. I was out in Calgary last September for a trip played like 6 rounds of golf and stuff. I'm heading back out there in August too. And what a time that was, though.
I'm just like in shock. This goes from walk-on goalie to walk-on player to walk-on equipment manager to 1 game assistant coach, and he's 1-0.
Well, we played the next night and we lost, but
okay, so you're 1-1 as assistant coach.
500.
500. Yeah.
Respectable.
We won't talk about the loss.
No, as we shouldn't.
Oh man, do you have any like other like good stories about Mount Royal? Because we know, or first I will say, do you have any good stories about Emerson Hrenak, who we had on last week, and David Stevens, who we had on a couple months ago?
About Emmer, I don't really have any like specific stories, but that guy was every Saturday night he would come walking into the freaking we would usually be at do you remember Brett Zarazin?
Yep.
He was on the team for a while, so we'd be at his place, and Herney would come walking in with a 12-pack of TNT beers.
TNT beers? What the heck are those?
They're like sludge. They're like $14 every Saturday night. And then he would go back to the 7-Eleven on the corner at the end of the night and buy the 2 for $3 hot dogs every single Saturday night.
Oh, man.
And then for Davey there, I think he told a story and then he told you guys not to play it.
Okay, yeah, we know that's, yep.
So we were at Scotty McKay's cabin, and one morning he was pretty hungover, so he went into the bathroom to puke, and he comes out and he's starting to talk, and I was like, Davey, like, where's your fake tooth? And his face just dropped. He's like, my mom is gonna kill me. He puked his fucking tooth into the toilet and then flushed it.
Man,
that's an expensive puke.
Oh yeah. And I razz him about it all the fucking time.
Mom asked, "Hey, where's your tooth? What are you talking about? What tooth?" You know?
Yeah, I have no idea what you're even fucking talking about, Mom.
Oh,
just has a pebble wrapped in aluminum sitting there.
Yeah, jams it up there.
Oh, that's great. I love hearing the Mount Royal stories as a alum myself.
Yeah.
It's just great to hear those stories. I can visualize all of that shit happening.
Oh yeah. Like we had there was 25 guys on the team, and like we all hung out together. Like such a close group.
And so we also like to ask our guests if you've told a lot of phenomenal stories already today. So we like to ask are there any other ones that come to mind that you're allowed to tell us that you think we should know?
I was thinking about it today when I was playing around. I golfed this morning with my dad, and he told me that I should tell this one. So when I was in Steinbach, we got this guy at the deadline, and he told us about a celebration. Can't remember the story about how it came up, but I think it was a guy in his beer league team or something. So every practice, I would do this stupid celebration. And I told my dad that if they came up to the last game of the year, that if I scored, that I would plan to do the celebration. And he's like, not about that shit. He was kind of looking at me like, don't be stupid. So he came, my mom came, my aunt and uncle, a couple buddies. So I happened to score. And the next fucking thing you know, my glove is on the blade of my stick and I'm squeegeeing the glass. I called it the window washer. So I'm standing there squeegeeing the glass. And my line mates are looking at me like, what are you doing? And I'm looking at the crowd like, oh my God, this is not a practice. Like, I'm going to get killed. The assistant coach for the other team.
This was at home, though? This was in Steinbach?
This was, yeah.
Okay.
So the crowd's like losing it, kind of like, what's going on here? Like, you're going to get beat up. Then the assistant coach for the road team, Ray Neufeld, he played in the show. I come skating by their bench after. He chucks a water bottle, just missed my head. Like, he wanted me dead.
The squeegee with the stick, like,
yeah. So then I was on the bench and I'm like, oh my God, like my dad is going to kill me. So I came out to the lobby after and I was like, Dad, like, I'm sorry. And he's like, no, you said you were going to do it. He's like, at least you're a man of your word.
He was more happy that you actually did it than.
Yeah. He's like, my son.
One of those things where he's not happy, but he respects it.
He's like, my son's not a complete coward. I respect that.
I just don't know how you come up with. I'm like trying to imagine this. How does a guy come up with a squeegee thing? You put it on the end of the blade and you like.
Yeah, I don't know where it actually came from, but when I heard it, I'm like, that is the best goal celebration I've ever heard of. Like, it needs to be seen. And that was at a time where we didn't have like a lot. There was no real cameraman or anything.
Oh yeah.
Now if that happens, like every
game everywhere.
Yeah.
There's
FTSN,
thousands of,
Barstool.
yeah. So I missed my calling, I think, a little bit.
But I'll tell you what, we are sending this clip to EA, and that is going to be a selling.
Yeah.
That would be incredible if that somehow.
I don't know if we have the kind of following for that yet.
True.
We'll see.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
That's first line of business. Once we get a couple million subscribers, is get the Mitch in Chell 20.
That would be something else.
The squeegee. What a selly.
The squeegee kid.
That's a great story to end this on. We're running out of time. Mitch, this is absolutely phenomenal, man. We appreciate you coming on.
Unreal interview.
Hanging out with us. This was one of my favorite interviews to date so far. Thank you so much, man.
I appreciate it, boys. Thanks a lot for having me on, and best luck to you guys. And I'll reach out to Paul there, and hopefully we can get him on here.
Yeah, like we're saying, it's soon to be the who's who are on Cold Hard Sports Talk. Or we're getting the name out there.
I sure hope so, boys.